interrupt anything. So starting off, we're going to have Sushruth Thorat who's a PhD student at the Donders Institute, present his work. Go on and take it away, Sushruth.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, let me first try to share my screen. All right. So that's visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. So I'm going to present some new findings from the lab. This has been going on for a year. So let's dive into it. So the study is about understanding how feature-based attention works in the brain, in vision. So the traditional vision problem, you are in a scene and you have to find certain objects. So in this case, you're looking for your friend. That implies you're looking for humans first to find your friend who is human, presumably. To do that, you need to filter information which is coming in from this scene. And there's a lot of information coming in. There's a lot of shapes, there's a lot of textures, colors. One of the filtering mechanisms we have is called feature attention. So you know that humans look different from other objects. They have shape differences, and shape is a feature. So you can use those differences to prioritize information about those shapes coming in. So that's feature attention. And then another filtering mechanism is spatial attention. So you know that humans most likely would be on the road. They won't be in any other part of the scene. So you can constrain your attentional window to that part of the scene. Now here we are interested in feature attention. And we would like to know how that works in the brain. So feature attention has been studied in the brain for a long time. So we kind of know how it works. It's mostly in terms of correlates. So I'll tell you what kind of signatures we see, which we attribute to something that is led by feature-based attention. So traditionally, we select a neuron which responds to a particular feature. So in this case, a left-tilted gabor. Then what we do is we show left-tilted gabors or right-tilted gabors to this neuron's receptive field in two conditions. One, when the monkey or the human is attending to the left tilted gabor or the right tilted gabor. What we see is the neural selectivity, which is basically the difference in the neural response for the left tilted gabor as compared to the right tilted gabor, which has to be higher for the left tilted gabor because this is a left tilted selective neuron. This selectivity difference increases when you're attending to the preferred orientation, so which is the left tilted gabor. So that's what you see, and this is what is called attentional gain. What this also corresponds to is higher discriminability for the preferred feature, and this also gets reflected as increased sensitivity in behavioral experiments. Now, what is interesting is that you can also find this attentional gain signal in task irrelevant locations. So let's say the monkey was fixating and doing a task on the left in the left visual field. So it was trying to discriminate between orientations in the left visual field. And currently the relevant feature was left tilted gabors. Now we can find a neuron whose receptive field is in the right visual field and measure these responses shown on the left for that neuron. And you also see attentional gain signals for that neuron. So now that neuron's receptive field is completely task irrelevant, but you also see this feature attention signal there. So this leads us to conclude that feature attention operates spatially globally, independent of where the spatial window is, the spatial attention window is. Now, this attentional gain signal has been studied mostly for low-level visual features. So with gabors and random dot patterns, so where the patterns are moving in a particular direction. There are a few studies for high-level features such as shapes, so faces and houses in an EEG study, or human bodies and cars in natural scenes in an fMRI study, but this evidence is still tentative. So we need further investigation to say that, okay, we also find this spatially global feature-based attention signal for high-level features like shapes. So that's what our study is about. So we want to know if object shapes can be features. So in the sense that, can you find the spatially global attention signal for shapes? So we have 6 objects in our case with 50 exemplars each. So you cannot just look for a particular shape. It's actually the categorical shape, so to say, for beds, cars, lamps, etc. And in our study, the analysis specific location, where we will try to look for this this attentional gain signal, as you saw in the previous slide, that location is always task relevant, as opposed to previous studies where they shifted the location. So sometimes they attended in one location and looked at the other rotation, and then attended to that other location and looked for signals in the other location. But in our case, the analysis specific location is always task relevant. So we're really forcing them to just not pay attention at all there, and then see what happens there anyway. Yeah, so let's see what happens. So the main experiment stimulus looks as follows. We have 4 boxes. The vertical boxes are always task relevant. So you're looking for objects in the vertical boxes, and the horizontal boxes are always task relevant, but objects are being flashed there, of course, because we need object representations on there to see how they get modulated. So in the main experiment, what we have is we have a block queue. So at the beginning of a block, you see car. So that implies you have to look for cars in the vertical boxes. So the stimulus is very briefly presented. So on a particular trial, you see the stimulus for 67 milliseconds. It's also backward masked. So it's really hard to see what's happening. And in the vertical boxes, one of the 6 objects might be flashed in only one of the boxes, or no object will be flashed. So that gives us 7 vertical conditions. And if you see a car in the vertical boxes, that's when you have to press a button. In the horizontal boxes, you could also have all of the 7 conditions, and the vertical and the horizontal conditions are completely crossed. So we can independently analyze them. So this experiment will give us attention dependent object representations. If we just focus our analysis on horizontal conditions, we'll get horizontal object representations, which are dependent on what object you are looking for. So the stimulus stays the same, the attention condition keeps changing. In the baseline experiment, we have blocks of objects. So in a particular block, you'll be shown exemplars of the same object, either in the vertical condition or the horizontal condition. This we do to obtain prototypical object representations for, let's say, lamps or beds or humans, which we will compare the main experiment object representations with. Now, each participant does a behavioral training experiment and 2 fMRI sessions. So we have quite some data. We tested 22 participants, 23, and we had to reject 1 because that participant performed very poorly. And we execute general linear models for the horizontal condition, specifically in this case, and obtain the object representations for both the baseline experiment and the main experiment. Now let's dig into the results. So the first thing we would want to see is how the overall response in a particular region of interest is modulated. So this is univariate analysis, and the only category we can do this for is bodies, because no other category has its own region, a cluster of voxels specifically responding to that category. So first we find these set of voxels. So we do a body versus rest contrast in the baseline object representations, and we find 2 ROIs, the extrastriate body area and the fusiform body area, which are quite well studied by themselves. Now, what we do is we sort our horizontal object representations according to the stimulus condition, so what object was shown, and attention condition, what you were looking for in the vertical conditions. So you have the human attention condition and the rest, and then you get the selectivity, which is the human stimulus condition minus the rest. And we want to basically see if the selectivity is higher when you attend to humans than when you attend for rest. And this is data for EBA. So you already see visually that that's true. So what's being plotted here are the GLM weights, by the way. So yeah, so that difference or differences is basically the attentional gain for human bodies. Now you can ask questions like, oh, do you see this in both ROIs? And it seems that we see this attentional gain modulation for overall responses in both ROIs, in both EBA and FBA. The attentional gain effect in EBA is greater than FBA, but it's nevertheless present in FBA. So yeah, so just to recap here, we do find attentional modulation for body silhouettes in the task irrelevant location. So you never had spatial attention there, but you still see this feature-based attention signal. So you are looking for human bodies everywhere in the visual field, even if the relevant location are the vertical locations, vertical boxes. Okay, cool. We have univariate results, but what about multivariate results? Now, the reason we do multivariate analysis is because we can also find, we can also check if we find these results for the other objects. So we find object selective cortex first, that's LOC, and then we also take early visual cortex from Brodmann area. And now here, what we do is we compare main experiment responses to baseline responses using a metric called proximity, which I'm not going to go too deep into, but it basically measures how close the main responses, which are in gray, are to the baseline responses, which are in black. So if the proximity is higher, that implies that the human response in main experiment is more closer to the human response in baseline than other object responses in baseline. So here we see for LOC that the human selectivity is higher when you attend to humans than when you attend to any other object. Also in terms of this proximity measure. You can also do this for, this is the attentional gain effect. You can also do this for all the other objects. So for LOC and early visual cortex, you can see this. What we find is the variation is different for the two ROIs, and there's actually no variation or effect in early visual cortex. So we can check what happens in LOC. And in LOC, the attentional gain is only found for human bodies and for nothing else. There is variation, so we can say that it's only there for human bodies. So yeah, in terms of patterns, we also find that the human pattern becomes more closer to the prototypical human pattern when you're attending to humans. Okay, so to quickly summarize, human body representations elicited by stimuli in task-irrelevant locations are modulated by the target of visual search in another location. This is a signature for spatially global feature-based attention, and here the features are high-level, so the humans are not gobars. So that's something interesting. And as I said, the human object representation kind of moves closer to the prototypical human object representation when you're attending to the humans, but the representations of other objects do not change. So this is gain modulation. Yeah, so it's unfortunate we did not find these signals for other objects. We don't know exactly why that might be happening, but it most probably is a power issue. So we might want to do an experiment with fewer objects to find this signal for other objects. And if we don't find it for other objects, that's also interesting. Why it would only be present for humans? That would be something for future research. And that's it. Looking forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sushrut. Please feel free to fill in the Q&A box, audience members. I will abuse my power as MC and take the first question slot. I was wondering, I thought it was interesting that you see this modulation in higher order visual cortex and not early visual cortex. And I wondered if you thought that would change depending on how you defined your targets. So if you're looking for red objects or something defined by lower level features, if you would see that modulation earlier in the visual cortex, or what your thoughts were on that.
Well, that is the theory currently. So the earlier results I showed with gobars, they usually do find these effects in early levels of the visual cortex, so V1 to V4. We were very curious to see these effects for high-level features also in early visual cortex, because you can imagine it's a hierarchy of features, right? So if you're looking for humans as opposed to other objects, humans are vertical, beds are horizontal. So you could target the vertical specific neurons in early visual cortex. But again, I don't know. Again, it might be a power issue. We don't know. Like, we cannot say that it's not there. We don't have evidence for its existence. Does not mean that it is not there. That would be something very interesting to test.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, and I might have missed this, but did you try like a multi-voxel pattern analysis type look to see if there are changes in the representation through that way?
Oh, that is exactly what we meant by multivariate analysis.
Right.
So,
sorry. Okay.
no, so I had to move very quickly over this, but yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to switch gears now. So thank you so much, Sushrut. Oh, and I forgot to mention that his fun fact is that he's on League of Legends. Go and find him.
Yes, come play with me.
We are multi-dimensional people here. Now we're going to switch gears.